all the people. They represented the nation of Israel. They said, "Let his blood be on us and on our children." We're starting on the 4 curses on Israel. Did you realize Israel had been cursed? When a nation gets curses from God, the curses are never retracted. They're never replaced by blessing. They're curses. When God cursed the earth, it has stayed cursed to this day. Blessing has never replaced it, but the grace of God was there and is there to bring some kind of deliverance in our everyday living. We get the rain when we need it sometimes. We get rid of the weeds and poison our ground and our bodies. All that kind of thing occurs. Israel was cursed. She had 4 curses. She never received a blessing after. To this day, there has never been a blessed Israel. Always there was a cursed Israel. There was. Now we're going to do the last of the 4 curses, because as well as showing what the curses are, we need to derive a lesson from them that is applicable to ourselves. Well, the first curse occurred in Pilate's judgment hall in Matthew 27. The chief priests and elders had taken Jesus from the Garden of Gethsemane. And at this time, he is under the arrest of Pilate, who was the governor, and not the power of the Roman Empire. Pilate was only the governor. He had to do the bidding of the Caesar and of the empire. And so here he is, standing before Pilate, who says to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You say so." But then along come the chief priests and elders, who accuse him, pointing the finger, reviling him, lying about him. He answered not a word. Like a lamb before his shearers is dumb, Peter tells us about Jesus, so he opened not his mouth. Then Pilate said, "Can't you hear what they're saying about you?" But he did not even answer one accusation. Now we know the story, most of us, that during this feast of the Passover, it was the Roman custom for the governor to release one prisoner from the jail to whichever one the crowd wanted. There was a notorious prisoner, Barabbas. So then Pilate said to them all, "Whom do you want, Jesus or Barabbas?" Jesus, who is called the Christ. Because he knew that they were envious of Jesus, and that's why they handed him over. Pilate's sitting there in all the pomp and splendor of the Roman Empire on the judgment seat, and a messenger comes. His wife had sent it. "Have nothing to do with that innocent man. I have suffered greatly as a result of a dream about him today." But there's the crowd of people, and there's the chief priests and elders yelling out, "We want Barabbas and we want Jesus killed. We want Barabbas and we want Jesus killed." So then, officially, the governor asked them, "Which of the two do you want me to release?" Because that was the law. He followed the law. He wasn't doing what he wanted or didn't want. He followed the law. And they said Barabbas. Then he said, well, what shall I do with Jesus, who is called the Christ? He's innocent. What shall I do with him? Because he was their prisoner first. And they all called out, crucify him! Crucify him! So when Pilate saw that he could do nothing against the law, against what they wanted, he took some water and washed his hands and said, I am innocent of this man's blood. You take care of it yourselves. And they said, all the people. They represented the nation of Israel. They said, let his blood be on us and on our children, on them and on their children. So then they took Jesus, and you know what they did to him. We're going to look at this fact. They brought a curse upon themselves. Let his blood be on us and on our children. You know, they said that with effrontery before God. They didn't really say that particularly to Pilate, who declared his innocence. They declared it to him, but above all, it was to God. And it would be in their generation, within 40 years, that the curse would happen. Now, I have not heard any preacher say this. It's about time preachers, and myself included, looked at the scriptures properly. It was on them and on their children, not their grandchildren. On them and their children. I think they were moved in a way by God to fulfill the curse upon themselves by their own words in their generation, because he had determined already that Israel was going to finish in that generation. And it did occur. By AD 70, the month of August, Israel, the nation, ceased forever. Now Jesus had said to those same Pharisees, you're blind guides. You strain out a gnat, yet you swallow a camel. You snakes and vipers. Woe, 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 and he declared all the woes. When we mention snakes and vipers, it reminds us that they were the very people inhabited by those demons to whom Jesus had sent the 72 apostles in Luke chapter 10. And he said, I send you among the snakes and the vipers. And he meant that it would happen to them in their lifetime, to the apostles in their lifetime. Specifically to the 72, it was in their lifetime. As far as the 11 apostles were concerned, it was in their lifetime. Then they were gone. But John was still there when he would have heard and not seen about the fall of Jerusalem, because he didn't die till AD 93. Now in Mark's Gospel it says he was killed and was crucified and he was scourged. But Jesus had said in Luke 10, you will be killed. Some of you will be killed. Some of you will be crucified. Maybe all of you will be scourged in their synagogues. So it had to happen in their lifetime. It wouldn't happen after they were dead. It was not said to us. We don't have synagogues. We don't have crucifixions, except if you're a Christian in the Middle East. They've been crucifying them there. And he said in verse 35 that on you all the righteous blood that has been shed till this generation will be required, and you will be judged. This generation, he said, to the ones he was speaking. Now in Matthew 27:15, we see these words about one prisoner who had to be released. Jesus was crucified instead of that prisoner. And in effect, we know he was crucified before God instead of us facing the wrath of God when we believe in Christ. Instead of us facing eternal death when we believe in Christ. We do know what happened from AD 63 to AD 70. In AD 63, Nero upped his persecution against Christians and against the Jews because he blamed the Christians, as the Jews were telling Nero, oh, the Christians are doing all these things. Of course, the Christians weren't doing anything. The Jews were fighting the Romans all the time. Nero himself set fire to Rome. We know that story. It's within their generation. What was said about this generation began in 33 AD. It extended about 37 years until AD 70. A generation is 40 years. To fulfill the curse upon themselves by their own words in their generation, because he had determined already that Israel was going to finish in that generation.